Hello, welcome back to IM Movies. Today we'll be covering a crime drama film titled The Place Beyond the Pines that was released back in 2012. In a gritty upstate New York town, a motorcycle stuntman turns to bank robbery for his family, and a rookie cop marked by ambition becomes entangled in corruption. Their lives collide, unraveling a tale of consequence and redemption. So, before we get started, be sure to give us a thumbs up, drop a comment, and hit the subscribe button to stay updated. With that said, let's get started. The movie starts with a guy named Luke, who's a stunt rider. He's at a carnival with his two friends, and they all get in a ring with their bikes to do stunts. This is their job. After the show, Luke's ex-girlfriend, Romina, shows up to meet him. Luke had left her a year ago because of his job. He had to keep moving to different cities and didn't have enough money to give Romina a good life. So he had no choice but to break up with her. Romina is happy to see him again. Luke drives Romina to her house, and he tells her that he'll be in another city in 2 days. Romina responds by saying it's no problem because he always does the same thing. She mentions that she now lives with a man. This news makes Luke feel really upset, so he leaves without saying anything. The next day, Luke goes to Romina's house again, but this time, Romina's mother answers the door. She tells Luke that Romina is at the hotel where she works. Luke then asks whose child is she holding, and she tells him, "It's yours." Romina named her Jason. Luke is completely shocked by this revelation. He reaches out for the baby with his hands, his heart filled with surprise and emotion. After this, Luke goes to meet Romina and asks her why she didn't tell him about Jason. Romina replies that there was no point in telling him because he never had time for them. This leads to a little argument between the two, and then Luke leaves, leaving Romina in tears. Upon hearing Romina's story, Luke becomes very sad. He makes a decision to win Romina back. He goes to his boss and quits his job as a stunt rider. Later, he goes to Romina's house to meet her and tells her that he has left his job as a stunt rider. He expresses his desire to be with her. Their conversation is interrupted when Kofi, Romina's new man, opens the door carrying Jason. He tells Romina they need to go to church. Luke follows them to the church and sees Jason. His son is getting baptized that day. The emotion that Luke is feeling after seeing this is heartbreaking. Luke's anger drives him to ride his bike at high speed in the forest. While riding, a guy spots him. Robin, who notices Luke's reckless behavior, brings him to his garage to talk to him. He offers Luke a job, and Luke agrees to work with him later and gives him a room in one of his van. After a few days of working with Robin, Luke tells him that he needs more money. However, Robin can't increase his salary, but suggests a way for Luke to make a lot of money quickly by using his skills to rob a bank. Robin tells Luke that he did it 12 years ago and advises Luke that as long as he don't do it many times, he is safe. Luke takes it as a joke and firmly declines this suggestion. Frustrated and desperate, Luke meets Romina and asks her to leave Kofi and be with him. Romina challenges him by asking if he can provide a good life for their son Jason. Luke is stunned by the question. He couldn't give her an answer, so Romina leaves. Luke goes to Robin and agrees to rob the bank. Robin is delighted to hear this, and they start planning the bank heist. They gather all the necessary information about the bank. They check who is the oldest or weakest teller inside the bank, and that will be the target. After a few days, Luke enters the bank to commit the robbery. He holds a bank employee at gunpoint, takes the money, and quickly escapes on his bike. On the way, Robin is waiting with a truck. Luke rides his bike into the truck, and Robin closes it, hiding Luke and the stolen money inside. After successfully robbing the bank, they return to the garage and start enjoying themselves while counting the money. With the stolen funds, Luke begins to spend more time with Romina and Jason, using the money to improve their lives. Luke and Romina start rebuilding their lives together, getting a family photo taken to capture their newfound happiness. However, Luke eventually returns to his criminal activities and robs another bank in a different location. One day, he goes to Romina's house with a crib for Jason, intending to bring joy to their lives. Kofi, seeing Luke trespassing inside his house, objects and tells him that he can't bring these things into his house. Luke becomes furious and violently assaults Kofi, causing severe injuries that leave Kofi lying on the ground. Romina is horrified by the violence, and Luke ends up in jail as a result. Robin steps in and bails him out of jail. After his release, Luke realizes that robbing small banks won't lead to a better life, so he tells Robin that he wants to rob a big bank. However, Robin refuses this idea, explaining that robbing a big bank is a much more difficult and dangerous endeavor. Luke is determined to provide for Romina. He collects all the money that he hid and goes to Romina to give it. But Romina declines it, so Luke throws it inside her car. Meanwhile, back in the shop, Robin breaks Luke's bike so he won't do any more robbery. The following day, Luke saw what happened to his bike and he was furious about it. Luke holds Robin at gunpoint and takes money from him to buy a new bike. He then proceeds to attempt another bank robbery. But this time, things don't go as smoothly. The police chase him, and unfortunately, his bike gets into an accident. Luke takes refuge in a nearby house, realizing that he may not survive this ordeal. He calls Romina and urges her never to tell Jason that he is his father, because it might not be good for him to know. While hiding in the house, a policeman named Avery arrives and directly shoots Luke. A confrontation ensues, and Luke ends up shooting Avery in the leg in self-defense. Tragically, Luke loses his life as he falls from a window during the encounter. Upon witnessing Luke's tragic death, Avery is overwhelmed with regret and emotion. He wishes he hadn't fired the fatal shot. In the hospital, a senior officer interrogates Avery about the incident. Avery decides to lie, claiming that Luke fired the first shot. This false account of events gains Avery fame as he appears on television, but deep down, he is consumed by sadness and guilt for his actions. Avery keeps the truth about Luke's death to himself, and this burden takes a toll on him, leading him to seek treatment from a therapist. Later on, while Avery is looking at his son, AJ, Avery's colleagues drop by his house and ask Jennifer, Avery's wife, if they can steal Avery for a few hours. After that, they go to Romina's house and forcibly enter and conduct a search. During the search, they discover the money that Luke had given to Romina, potentially complicating the situation further. While on the road, the police split the money and give Avery the biggest share, while Avery feels it is wrong. The following day, Avery is awarded a bravery medal, which brings joy to his family. However, despite this recognition, Avery is still haunted by guilt and the weight of his actions. He returns to the police station and begins searching the evidence room, where he stumbles upon Luke's bag. Inside the bag, he discovers Luke's family photo, which intensifies his feelings of remorse and sadness. Driven by a desire to make amends, Avery decides to give the money he got a while ago and goes to give it to Romina. However, when he offers the money to Romina, she refuses to accept it and responds angrily, accusing Avery of ruining her and her son's lives. She leaves in frustration, leaving Avery to grapple with the consequences of his actions. Avery decides to take the money to his chief and says he found it in Luke's bag. He also informs him about the misconduct of his fellow policemen. However, to Avery's disappointment, the chief dismisses the matter, suggesting that such corruption is commonplace and instructing Avery to keep the money. This realization shakes Avery's faith in the integrity of the entire police department. Frustrated and disillusioned, Avery begins heading home. On the way, he is pursued by one of his fellow policemen, DeLuca. DeLuca urges Avery to accompany him into the forest. However, as they venture deeper into the forest, Avery becomes increasingly uneasy and frightened. Ultimately, he decides to break away from DeLuca and makes a hasty escape. He then goes to his father's house and asks for advice. The encounter in the forest leaves Avery with a sense of trepidation and uncertainty about his surroundings and colleagues. Avery attempts to confide in another friend to share his concerns and experiences, but this friend scolds him and dismisses it, asserting that such corruption is a common occurrence in the office. This response only fuels Avery's determination to expose the wrongdoing. Unbeknownst to his friend, Avery had been recording their conversation. He takes the recording to his senior officer, the same one who had initially questioned him about Luke's death. Together, they decided to make the recording public. The news of this recording goes viral, resulting in an investigation. Fortunately, as a result of the investigation, all of Avery's corrupt colleagues are brought to justice and end up being imprisoned for their misconduct. Avery's commitment to honesty and justice ultimately prevails, and he succeeds in bringing those responsible for their wrongdoing to account. The narrative fast-forwards 15 years after, where we find that Avery has risen to become the New York Attorney General, a position of significant influence and responsibility. At this point, we see the characters gathered for Avery's father's funeral. Following the funeral, Jennifer approaches Avery and tells him that it's time for him to have his son AJ back. Due to Avery's divorce, the arrangement is that AJ lives with Jennifer for 1 year and then with Avery for the 2nd year. Avery gets AJ enrolled in a school in his area, and there, AJ strikes up a friendship with Jason. Unfortunately, both AJ and Jason become involved in drug use, which leads to a troubling incident. One day, AJ asks Jason to obtain drugs from a house, and Jason complies. However, on their way back, They are apprehended by the police and subsequently incarcerated. Avery visits the jail to see them and is startled to recognize Jason as none other than Luke's son. Frustrated and concerned, Avery reprimands AJ, making it clear that he must distance himself from Jason. AJ agrees to this directive. Meanwhile, Jason is brought to court, where his lawyer informs the judge about a letter received from the attorney advocating for Jason's release. Romina is overjoyed upon hearing this news, as she anticipates the possibility of her son coming home. During a family dinner, Jason grows curious about his real father and decides to ask Romina about him. However, Romina avoids the question and leaves the table without providing any answers. Undeterred, Jason turns to his stepfather, Kofi, to learn more about his father's identity. Finally, Kofi reveals his father's name. With this newfound information, Jason decides to conduct some research and Googles his father's name, leading him to discover Luke's past and his life as a stunt rider. Seeking further insight, Jason meets with Robin and inquires about Luke. Robin shares that Luke was not only a talented stunt rider but also his friend. He even shows Jason a newspaper article from that time, featuring Luke and Avery, the individuals responsible for the tragic incident. Upon learning that his father was shot by Avery, Jason is overwhelmed with sadness and a deep sense of loss as he uncovers the painful truth about his father's fate. In school, AJ tells Jason that he will have a house party later, and he wants Jason to be there. Jason agrees. But before leaving, AJ asks Jason to bring him drugs when he comes to the party. Jason reluctantly agrees to his request and steals drugs from a pharmacy. He then sneaks into the party at AJ's house, and they both consume the pills. During the party, Jason notices a picture of Avery on the wall at AJ's house. Seeing the picture triggers a realization in Jason, connecting the dots about Avery's identity and his connection to his father, Luke. Jason discovers that AJ's dad, Avery, is the one who killed his father, Luke. The two overdose with drugs and alcohol, goes on to argue, and a violent clash with AJ leads to Jason getting hospitalized. Not too long after his release, Jason goes to a gun seller and he acquires a gun. The following morning, we see Jason go to the Cross family home and confront AJ. Meanwhile, Avery arrives home, and Jason notices that as soon as Avery comes up to the stairs, Jason points his gun at him and takes Avery as a hostage. He compels Avery to drive into the woods, where Avery breaks down and apologizes. Jason spares Avery, but takes his wallet. Inside the wallet, Jason finds a stolen photograph of himself with his parents from the evidence locker. Later, Avery becomes the New York Attorney General and celebrates with AJ at his side. Romina receives an envelope labeled Mom, containing the old photograph, and we see Jason buys a motorcycle and embarks on a new journey. This movie serves as a stark reminder of the moral consequences of our choices, portraying the domino effect of decisions on lives and the possibility of redemption. Those choices echo through generations and what we left after. Thank you for sticking around. What are your thoughts on the movie? Feel free to leave a comment and share your answers. Don't forget to hit the like button, share this recap, and subscribe to stay updated for the next one. Until next time.